welcome to another episode of Disaster Empire Quick Views. This time with us is Rob Burton. Really excited to have this conversation with him. And so, hey, before we get started, I am going to flip this over to Rob to share a little bit of his background before we dive in. Hi, Rob, and welcome.
Thank you, Ashley, and I really appreciate the invite. I've been following the podcast and all your work, so really excited to be here. Yeah, Rob Burton. I'm the CEO of PreparedEx and the International Crisis Management Conference. Started out in the military back in the UK many years ago. Won't go into the to the years, but my preparedness journey did start back when I was 16 years old. I jumped on a train and joined the British Army. I went into the infantry, and I tell the story that I spent 9 months in basic training. So, which it was a good amount of time to prepare yourself for the military. So, and then I moved on from the military, did a number of roles. Excuse me, in the military throughout my 13 years, special forces. I was a sniper for a while, reconnaissance, did all some really cool stuff, and then moved on just after 9/11. Actually, I was handing my equipment in when 9/11 was happening, and I remember seeing it to this day. And I moved on from the military, and ever since then, I've been helping organizations prepare for a variety of different threats, from cyber-related challenges through to active shooter. And of course, as you know, on the PreparedEx side of the house, actually, we do a lot of stuff relating to exercises, and then ICMC is more the education side of the house. And I reside here in New England, in Newport, Rhode Island.
Excellent. Well, it's great to have a fellow New Englander on because, I'm a hop, skip, and a jump over on Cape Cod across the border. Thank you for that. And hey, can you share with the audience a fun fact about yourself or something that people who know you might not know?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I told this story recently to some friends, and it just came out of nowhere. And I'm going to share, not all the details, but a very quick synopsis, high level view. So it's a secret Santa story. It was late one night. I was in the army. I'm not going to mention where I was in the world, but the next day we had to give a secret Santa gift to someone that you've been selected to give it to, and of course I didn't have one, so I wasn't prepared. And so what happened was the individual that I was giving the secret Santa to was Welsh. So I said, well, why don't we just go and get him a sheep? And my friends were like, a sheep? It's like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, midnight or whatever. I said, yeah, we're about to find a sheep somewhere. So anyway, we went and got a sheep for him. And anyway, the next day, the sheep was waiting in the bar for him. I said, your secret Santa is in the bar. We had lunch. And then he went in the bar and he started crying.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he was like somebody that made this, the effort. Well, it was about 4 or 5 of us that made the effort to go and get the sheep, and of course, the sheep went back afterwards. So just FYI on the sheep there. But so yeah, that's a kind of a fun story that I told recently. I said, yeah, this would be a good icebreaker for this one.
Absolutely, a good reminder of home and
right.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do with a sheep, but obviously he knew better.
I think we had lots of photographs with the sheep. The sheep we called the sheep Sean.
Awesome.
Sean the sheep from
nice.
Wallace and Gromit, yep. I think that joke. Yeah.
Awesome. That is great. Hey, thank you so much for sharing that. And as we dive in, and you just referenced it a moment ago, but can you share a little bit more about the relationship between PreparedEx and the International Crisis Management Conferences, and just kind of the growth of that, how it evolved over time?
Yeah, sure. So PreparedEx was a rebrand really from our initial company that I was with a partner with back in 2005. We started PreparedEx. It was known as Blue Water Partners back then. We focused on the port space. And we realized that we were doing exercises really well, and the customers were liking that, and we were kind of offering too much from a security standpoint. So we said, let's rebrand. So we rebranded to PreparedEx about 9 years ago now. And of course, we preparedness through exercises, right? So that's where the name comes from. So we focused on that. And during that time, we had been discussing another layer of professionals who were getting into the field or were in the field, just wanted more information, but they didn't have the budget for a full-scale exercise or a tabletop exercise or, a well-run and designed program. So we said, let's put a conference together specifically around crisis management, right? So obviously there's lots on the business continuity front, DRJ doing great work, and a number of others, of course, in the field. So we decided 7 years ago to start ICMC. We had about 45 people, I think, in Boston. We grew it to about 100 folks showing up in Boston. Boston. Then we pulled it out of Boston a few years ago, just before COVID. So now we run it every year down here in Newport, Rhode Island. And we just did the first one post-COVID in June of this year. And we'll be doing the same in June of 2023. So excited to do it'll be our 8th year, actually. So yeah, we're excited. I know you've been part of that back in the day as well. Actually, you were on a panel, I believe, so a number of years ago. So.
Yeah, congratulations on that longevity. And, I think it's really important what you're doing. I'm a supporter, even though I haven't been involved, in every conference, but definitely something that I wanted to make sure to share with our peers out there, because they may not know the full backstory and really understand that you're honing in the crisis management space, which I think is so important.
Yep.
And, that great synergy between the emergency management piece, which I know you understood well, from the military aspect, and then the private space with crisis management being so important. So thank you and your team for what you're doing.
Thank you.
And, from what I understand in my past experience, it's great to network and collaborate. And I can speak to, the exercise piece, because you've really kicked off, in my experience, a great opportunity for people to sit in on an exercise and really kind of understand the design from your team. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And you know that my theme is all about resilience. And so I like to ask every guest what resilience means to you.
Yeah, so as I was reading this question, and of course, everything's been said. The castle effect. I really like the lighthouse analogy. Of course, that's really a good one as well. But as I was thinking about it, from my career and using my experience, I look at it as a well-oiled special forces machine, right? So this is a team that's got the resources. They've done a lot of training. They're constantly preparing, right? So it's about people. Resilience is about people. So no matter if we've got systems and tools and technology, it all needs to have people behind it, right? So you need to have that well-oiled team. So when I was thinking about this, I really thought back to my days in the military and having these small teams who were ready for any eventuality, right? So we were ready to move in any direction at any moment in time. We were on standby, 5 minutes notice to move, to go and do something operationally. So for me, I think it's a well-oiled special forces machine, training, preparedness, obviously that practice piece. We were always exercising, right? I guess that's where my love comes in the military. We were exercising all the time. So yeah, I think, in terms of, my analogy of it, it's about people and that well-oiled team. It would be, my view on that.
Thank you so much for that. And it really is great to hear about the importance of people and the focus, and of continually getting people prepared. So thank you. And we've both had experience in the public and the private sector. How do you think that's really informed your viewpoint and your approach to crisis management?
Yeah, I really think, when I started off leaning back on my operational experience in the military, it was all about being organized. So organizational skills, right? So that was a big part of it. I talk about this in exercises, but discipline, right? So, when we bring the team together in an emergency, during a crisis, during an evolving, and even if it's a real, we're not sure what's going on, which is typically common, right? When we bring the team together, let's find out what's going on. But we need to remain disciplined in those first few moments, those first few hours, and quite often we'll run exercises. And one of the findings is often we can work a little bit better on the discipline piece. And I think the third thing would be coordination. In the military, we had to coordinate with a lot of different groups. And so it's no different, right? So from a stakeholder standpoint, if you've got good, strong partners, you've worked with them, you're prepared, to respond, based on, your roles and responsibilities. I think that's, the coordination piece is huge for me, and strong partnerships will get you through.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to the value of that. And you're nowhere without your partners, right? If you don't have their support, it's hard to get anything done in any organization. But I also wanted to ask you, for you personally, what you're finding most rewarding about working in the industry today.
Yeah, I was just in Canada, and obviously I like storytelling, right? So I'll tell a quick story about being in Canada recently, running a emergency management functional exercise, and the core goal was the evacuation of about 55 employees from a certain area on this site, and they got hundreds of acres on this site, so lots of challenges around communications, lots of challenges around coordination, and all those things that we want to practice, right? But it was about the people. It was about really. And that's what the biggest one for me in terms of working in the industry is meeting all these different people. And I certainly met a lot last week up in Canada, and it's some folks you would never meet in the middle of British Columbia. You would never even think about getting to these places if we were not doing the business that the work that we do. I remember many years ago I was working for a mining client, and I think he was been in the industry about 37 years, and we always get feedback after the exercise, right? So we want to improve on our own services. And I remember him coming up to me and saying he'd been in the business for 37 years, and this was a simple tabletop that we had ran. It was a good length tabletop. It was about 5 or 6 hours, but he said that's the best training he's ever had in 37 years of being in the mining business. So for me, that's big. That's a big part of obviously what we do. And then the final quick story I'll tell is a client emailed us during. Actually, it was just after an incident they had, a real incident, and it was again my same client actually, but in a different part of the country. This was up in Canada, and they had trapped miners underground in one of their mines. And they were able to organize in a smooth and disciplined way. And the email I got from my connection with the client, he said that without the training that we'd done somewhat recently, they'd have been disorganized, and this helped them kind of get through the incident. And of course, the miners got out, and everything was perfectly well. But just getting emails like that from
the best reward,
your customer,
right?
oh yeah, it's just fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, to definitely hear that, what you provided had that real practical value or that tactical value.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. And save lives and help limit damage. So thank you so much for sharing that. Hey, you do have a unique vantage point with PreparedEx and with the conference. And as you just spoke of, just having the ability to engage with many people and customers, across the globe and from all, vantage points. And with that, thinking back to COVID, what did you see was the biggest challenge for crisis management?
Yeah, when I read this question, it made me think about, a number of occasions throughout that period. Of course, our business, dropped off as well, like many small businesses do, and we're able to kind of make it through, fortunately. But I think there was this notion that nothing else would happen during the pandemic. So there wouldn't be a cyber attack, there wouldn't be supply chain issues that came from it. And of course, there were lots of other things that were happening during this. So I think there was, there was this cadence of these meetings for COVID, and the team were comfortable every day, or eventually every week, or every month, or whatever it came down to in terms of having their meetings. But I think one eye was not on the ball as much as well as it could have been from what I saw and from what I was hearing. And I think kind of coming out of the other side of it, in the last 6 to 8 months, a lot of our clients have come to us and said, we got to update our plans. The plans were not good enough. We were just getting by. And of course, once they got into like I said, that the cadence of meetings, it seemed everything would be fine. But, they challenged themselves to review their plans afterwards, make those changes, and of course, continue to improve. So I think, that was the biggest one I would see.
Excellent. And a good opportunity, a great one for your team to really help people post,
right.
Really look at the gaps and work on improvements. That's so vital. And to have customers that are open to doing that too,
right.
I think really speaks to the relationship that you've been building. And just on the other piece, I know I've been seeing, the world does not stop even for a pandemic. So, so many other things, as we know, have happened over the past few years. And certainly what I've been seeing is an increase in concurrent events as well. So not just dealing with a long tail like a COVID or pandemic, but also having natural disasters, the protests, the civil unrest, all of those pieces happening at the same time. And that's what I'm seeing as definitely a challenge. for crisis managers going forward is kind of that, I think you would say from your background, war on multiple fronts, in some respects. And that is a challenge. I don't think we're as used to dealing with that as in the past.
For sure. Yep.
And then, so I wanted to ask you, in your viewpoint, looking ahead now, post-COVID, what are you seeing as the greatest challenge or risks for crisis managers? What should they be kind of looking forward to and trying to build into their programs?
Yeah, when I was thinking about this, I think we'll get complacent again really quick. So, one of the words I was thinking about was, what's going to change. And, I was thinking, in some cases, nothing. Of course, not every organization is the same. So there are those organizations that do have those professionals who will take remediation to the next level. And that's the biggest thing that we see. After an exercise, the follow-on, the review of the AAR, and then the work starts, right? So we have to make changes to our policies, procedures, capabilities, whatever it may be. And I talk about this on a regular basis. And it's certainly one of the big gaps. And, we've gone back year after year with some clients, and we find some of the same issues, and we highlight them and say, look, this came up last year. So I think remediation planning is one of the things that I think we've probably taken to the next level. I'm not sure if organizations are still as well-oiled, as I mentioned before, at it. So I challenge, the question, I think of is, have you run a pandemic exercise since the pandemic? Right. So have you been through your AARs? Have you updated your pandemic plans? Have you, sat down with leadership? Have you gone through this again? And I would have, if I was to guess, of course, we're all pandemicked out, right? Because we don't want to, we're all done with it. But the reality is we need to make sure that any of those gaps that we found during, that whole period, that, we don't find them again if something else kicks up, something nasty comes and hits us out of left field.
Yeah. And I guess I'm one of those people that have that mindset because, when I just read about the level 4 lab, right? It's just, okay, we got to keep this on our radar. You just never know, right? Hopefully nothing. But, what is the next pandemic? It's definitely something that I think we've learned that you have to keep, as you said, preparing for and making sure that your plans are up to date. So, I completely embrace and support, that attitude. So I hope your customers do as well, and all of our audience out there.
Right.
Well, hey, it's been so great to talk to you. I know our time is short, but just want to thank you for really being a thought leader and innovator in this space and really giving support to the crisis managers out there, because sometimes I think it is a little bit too wrapped into business continuity, understandably, and resilience, but it is its own separate discipline, in many ways, although complementary and part of an overall program. So I want to thank you for that. And I wanted to ask, was there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience before we wrap today?
Yeah, well, again, thank you, Ashley, for having me on and sharing the good word here about PreparedEx and ICMC. We really enjoy this type of collaboration. Yeah, I'd encourage folks to go to ICMC. I can provide the link in the show notes and take a look. We're a membership organization. It's just $99 for the whole year. We have over 100 presentations from experts within the field. There's lots of other benefits as well. You get discounts on our annual conference, like I mentioned before. We got professional training courses, and of course, we have regular webinars, 2 or 3 a month, I think we're up to now, and lots of other content within our ICMC world. So, yeah, just go to crisisconferences.com and check it out, and happy to answer any questions that your listeners may have.
Okay. Hey, Rob, what's the best way for our listeners to, get in touch with you? Is it through the conference website or LinkedIn? Or
yeah, you can use one of the conference. The conference website has the contact page in there, and then LinkedIn as well. I'm very active, as you know, Ashley, as you are on LinkedIn. So if folks want to follow me and all the content that we push out, then you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, either way is good.
Great. And for the audience, we'll make sure to have all those links in the comments section below. Wanted to thank the audience again for being with us today, and Rob again for coming on and really sharing all of this valuable information and resource that his company provides. So really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Ashley.
All right.
See you soon.
Bye.